this video, we are looking how you can centralize your sales data in a database in Notion so you can visualize patterns and make informed decisions about your products, how to sell, seasonality, and all these things related to marketing and building products for your business. We'll get a database like this where you can see all the data coming in live or your sales, and then you can see revenue patterns over time, where you can also click on the data to see the specific sales and customer information in here. And you can then also ask Notion AI for insights, to brainstorm ideas, and any other sale related analytics or strategizing that you want to do with the assistance of Notion AI, which is getting lots of very interesting upgrades with agentic capabilities. So that's the premise of this video. We are specifically looking how you can get Stripe sales and Gumroad sales into a Notion database to see all your data centralized. So that's what you will get by the end of this video. You will find the template in the description of this video, and you can apply this across any sale sources that you have. The first requirement for this automation is to have a Notion database. Here is an example structure that you might have. There is the transaction ID in here, the sale date, that's a date property, the amount, that's a number. You might turn this into a currency directly, US dollar, Australian dollars, euros, or whatever currency you use, if the currency is unified. But if you allow people to pay in different currencies, then you might just have the amount as a numeric value and then the currency right here. You might do the conversion via the automation itself, although this is out of the scope of this video. So you might have the country like so, you might have the customer email, the customer name, the payment status, product category, product name, and the source. So this is an example database structure. You might use additional properties or remove some of them depending on what you like. But we do need an ID of some sort to recognize a transaction across the system. Also useful if you want to export data in the future via the export function here. A date, that's useful, especially if you want to visualize patterns and data across time. The amount, that's required as well. And the source as well is useful to know where the data comes from. Also the product name is valuable to see, for example, sales over time by product. So the more columns or properties you have, the more you can slice and dice the data and get analytics about it. The less data you have, the less charts, but then it might be simpler to maintain, one could argue. So that's the situation with the Notion database. Now let's look at building the automation. The first step in the make scenario is to connect Stripe. I'm using the watch events module because we're going to watch for payments, and in the API that is checkout session completed. So I have the watch events module. I will open it. The first thing to do is to choose a hook if you have an existing one, although that's very unlikely. So we'll add a new hook. We can call this Stripe sales or something that's meaningful. So in the future, we can keep that in mind. We can know what this is about. In the connection, if you haven't already, you will add a connection. You can select an API key or the auth 2.0. You can name the connection with your Stripe account name to make it recognizable. If you choose auth, if you choose the API key, you can still name the connection. And then you will select the restricted API key and then add the key in here. To get a restricted API key in Stripe, you will see now I'm in test mode because I'm testing this out. And if you build it yourself, I find it is good practice to first use test mode, do a few tests, and then go live. So when you go to test mode, there is a developers tab in here. When you click on it, there is the API keys section. Here is where you can generate restricted keys. So you can create a restricted key and then paste it in here. So you connect your Stripe account. If you do this for test mode, you will need to do this again later for your live account. In my case, I will select my existing connection here, which is the test mode that I have activated on a sample Stripe account. Then I will select the group. That's the event that we want to watch for in Stripe. And this will be checkout, and the specific event will be checkout session completed. I will save again. And now I want to run a test. So I'm going to run this module only. Let's go to Stripe. In test mode, I have a payment link that I can use. So I'm going to copy the URL here. I will open a new tab, paste that link for testing purposes. In here, I can enter an email address and the card info. I can get it from the Stripe documentation. And for testing purposes, I can use the testing cards available on the Stripe documentation. So for example, I can copy this one here. I'm going to go back. I'm going to insert that card. I'm going to insert that card number. And then for this, I can insert whatever number. And for this as well, whatever number. In here, card holder name, I can insert whatever name. Then I can select the country or region. And I will pay. Okay, the test payment is successful. and I can see that the webhook received the data. So that means the webhook is working. Later, I will switch it to the live Stripe version. That's important. Don't forget that. So in here, I can see the raw web data, and I can see the object data with the ID, the total amount that needs to be divided by 100. This is in cents, and all the other info in the payload of the Stripe API. So that's good enough to continue setting up the automation. Now, next up, I want to add this data to Notion. Let's see if we have all the data that we need in the payload. Otherwise, we can use other Stripe modules to retrieve customer data or the product data as needed. For this demo, let's use a created database item. So this is going to be the module here. After I select my connection, or I add the new one, if I haven't done that already, there is a video I made explaining how to connect your Notion workspace in Make. I can then enter the database ID. This is part of the URL, but we can also search it easily here by typing the database name, product sales, analytics, in my case. And if the connection has access to the database, then it will be found and populated automatically. If there are many matches, as you can see here, all the possible options are displayed and I can select which one I want. Okay, then the fields expand, so I can map the transaction ID from the object ID right there. The product name, let's see if we have it here. We don't get the product name directly from here, so there needs to be another API call to retrieve that data. For now, let's focus on the other properties and run a test to see how this works. So it's going to be the customer email, which we do have here. I'm going to search for it and I get the customer email. The amount, which is also present. This is the amount total, and we will divide by 100. The customer name, we have it here. The product category, this is something a bit more custom. Either that could be a custom field in Stripe, or it could be maybe populated directly in a Notion database, maybe via an AI autofill property that selects the product based on the name. It selects the category, or there must be some other intermediary step in here. I'm not going to go into this in this video because that's not the focus of it. And there is the currency here. Let's see if we have that field. We do, so we can map it here. The country of the customer, that could be a useful data point. The sale date, and this corresponds to the created time because the webhook fires immediately upon the checkout session completed. So we can map this right here. If we want to include time, then we can toggle this on. Otherwise, we can just keep it to no. The source will be hard-coded, Stripe. We know this is Stripe, so that's that. And the payment status is completed because that's a completed checkout session that we are listening for. So it is completed by definition. So we can save this, and we might also add an error handler. That's a break module to maybe retry 3 times after 2 minutes each, just in case there is a timeout, which sometimes might happen. So you want to handle that. And if the break module doesn't resolve the error, then we will find the execution in the incomplete executions tab in Make. And we can rerun it manually also by editing data in the module based on the error. So I find the break module to be very handy for this. All right, now we can test it out. I'm going to run it manually for now. Go back to the payment link. I will fill out this info and then pay. Okay, I've got the info filled out. The Make scenario is listening for data. I'm going to pay. Go here. It receives the data. The execution is successful. So I'm going to go to the Notion database and I will find the new data right here. These other IDs are just made up. This is only sample data. That's why there is a difference here. I can see the sale date. That's correct today. The amount, that is correct. The currency, we can capitalize it. In this case, it is lowercase. That's okay. The customer email, the name, the status, and we are missing the product name and the product category. Now we can visualize that data in our charts, in the sales calendar as well. Revenue over time, you can see here that aggregates up. Sales by product category, we can see a pie chart of all the sales broken down by category, and sales by source as well. That's a bar chart that shows all the sales, where the source is Stripe in this case because I clicked on that data. If I click on Gumroad, then I can see all the Gumroad sales over time. To get the product name, we can make an additional API call before creating the item. So this will be the make an API call Stripe module. And when I open it, I can then use this endpoint checkout session / the ID and then expand line items as URL parameters. This will be a GET request. So I'm going to test it manually just to see if it works. And then we can map that data into the Notion module. So I'm going to run this manually. I'm going to insert the checkout session ID from the test that I made. So here, a mistake that I made initially was I included the HTTPS api.stripe.com in the URL, but actually this is implied in the make module. So we just start from v1/checkout/sessions/ the session ID, which we map here with the ID from the object, and then expand line items. Now, if I run this module only, here I will paste the checkout session ID from my test, and I will do OK. That's successful. And in the body, I will get the same payload from the webhook plus the line items object that includes the description. That's the product name. In my case, test. In your case, it will be the product name in Stripe. So that info will then be useful to map the product name right here. So we do line items, data, description, and that's that. Then we can save. And now the product name will be mapped into the Notion database right here. So this will be test based on the test that I made. For completeness sake, we can also already include the line items array in the original payload, but Make doesn't allow to do that, at least in my knowledge. So if you're using another service or doing this outside of Make or a no-code tool, then it might be more straightforward for you to just include the line items in the original webhook payload. Otherwise, you can make this additional API call to make it easy to retrieve the product. Let's get into the final stage of this automation walkthrough, and that is getting sales data from Gumroad. In Make, there is a watch new sales module from Gumroad. So I can open it, then create a webhook. I can name it something recognizable and meaningful for future reference. I can then establish a connection if it's not already there. This is just an auth 2.0, so you just click add, name it in a meaningful manner, then click save and go through the authentication process in your Gumroad account. In my case, I already have mine, so I'm gonna select my existing connection here. I will hit save, and this creates the webhook. Then I save. In here, we don't really need to test because this is just a sale event, and the payload structure is already determined in the make module. So you can see that we already get the payload with the correct info right here, ready for mapping. So in the create database item, that's the module that creates the sale in our Notion database here. I just copied this module from the previous scenario to make it easy. So in here, I'm gonna remap the transaction ID. This will be the sale ID, the product name, which is directly available there, the customer email, which is also available here, the amount. This one as well is in cents. So we will need to divide it by 100, just like it is done here. This is the price, the customer name, which we do have here as the full name, product category. Yeah, there is no field for that. So this one as well could be an AI-based automation. It could be maybe a related database that you have, but let's skip over that for now. Then we have the currency, the country. Let's see if that's available here. I'm not sure. IP country. This looks like the code. Let's map it for now. The date, that's the timestamp right here. So we can map that in there. A timestamp is a date formatted as a number, so that will be readable by this module here. The source will be Gumroad, and the payment status completed because that's a sale, so we know that that's the case. Then in here, I'm gonna reset the break module also for this scenario. Gonna align, save. Now, when the data comes in, it will be populated properly in the Notion database, just like this sample data right here. And I will then see all of that data over time in the charts. That's it for this video. You will find links in the description. If you want to work together, contact me via the dedicated contact form that you find in the description of this video. For now, thanks for watching and see you soon.